Hey guys, how you doing today? Just out for my normal walk. Today's the day off, so I get to do what I want today. I'm going to take a break from the Wall Street bets scandal today because I've been talking about a lot of that through the week. But what I do want to talk about today is something that's been really going on behind the scenes, doesn't get a lot of press for obvious reasons, which is the crackdown of YouTube censorship, the crackdown of censorship generally across the internet on behalf of the Biden administration and on behalf of the oligarch structure, right? We live in a neo-feudal society, and the oligarchs don't like it when people stand up, especially on their platforms that they own and operate. They don't like it when people actually point out, oh hey, have you noticed how corrupt and evil everything is? But I think the thing that I really want to focus on, because that story I think is well trodden and that story is well represented in other sources. But have you noticed that you don't know anything about the unions that are around you? Have you noticed that there's no news in the mainstream media sources or the mainstream media sites or anything like that regarding unions or labor, right? About 20 years ago, I mean, there's a long history of this. You go back to the McCarthy era, for goodness sakes, where communists and socialists literally get blacklisted from sites. Recently, you have a former Nixon aide, outright admitting that what the purpose of the drug war was to criminalize black and leftist life, right? That was the purpose of it. And this trend continues throughout time. It continues for very clear and obvious reasons. The powerful don't like helping the little guy. They don't like helping leftists. And so the new strategy when dealing with unions, especially, and labor generally, is to simply not talk about them, right? When you open up the Globe and Mail, when you open up the Washington Post, when you open up any of these outlets to get your daily news, where's their labor reporters? Where are the people who are actually talking about labor news? Where are the people who are actually talking about union news? Where are the people who are even addressing it? The only time they bring up the fact that unions exist at all is when they want to demonize them, right? And that only really truly happens when the unions actually get the gumption together to go on a strike, right? But the news media doesn't tell you who the players are. They don't tell you who the leader of the union is. They barely tell you which industries are involved in the union because they don't want you to know anything about it. Because if you actually learned something about the unions and you actually found something out about union history and you actually found something out about what's going on, you would go, oh hey, I think these unions are pretty okay, right? I think it's okay that people have the ability to collectively bargain against the capitalist class who is attempting to rob them of their labor, right? I think it's okay that people continuously have support and solidarity amongst one another. And they can't have that. They can't have that. They've got to keep us all isolated. They've got to keep us all separated in our own little corners. And moreover, they've got to keep paying off their politicians in order to continue suppressing and crushing any kind of organized dissent against capital. That's the point. To crush any kind of organized dissent against capital. Like here in Canada, there's just under 5 million union members, right? And that's in decline for obvious reasons, given the continuous assault against the union struggle. But 5 million people, like, that puts you just under 10% of the populace, right? I'm not that good at math, but it's between 5 and 10% of the populace, and they've been completely silenced. This is the new strategy of the neoliberal establishment, right? It's when, I forgot who actually coined this phrase, but when it said the revolution will not be televised, this is exactly what we're talking about. That it will be completely silenced. There will be no news on it. There will be no one talking about it. It'll just pretend as if it's not even existing at all. So you'll have a full-scale war on your hand and your mainstream sources won't even be talking about it. This is generally what happened during Occupy, by the way. If you go back and take a look at the Occupy movement was in full swing for a full 2-3 weeks. I had been following it. I wish that I had channels like this at that time. I had been following it on that lead up for the full 2 weeks because it's a fascinating and interesting occurrence and a fascinating and interesting story, and the media didn't talk about it at all. And it took an NYPD officer pepper spraying like a 20-something-year-old just aggressively while she's literally dancing, doing absolutely nothing. It took that event for the mainstream media to even turn its eye on the event, because it had become too egregious. It had become too much to ignore anymore. They had to respond and put their propagandists on it, which they did. So the new strategy is not to fight these guys head to head. It's not to take on unions head to head. It's much more insidious. It's much more odious. And so, how does one get news about unions, right? What a great question. How does one get news about unions? I go to the union websites, right? I take a look around. But even the union websites, these are small organizations. They don't have the clout or the hitting power of like Google or Facebook, right? So their websites are not that great. And because there's no institution, there's no institutional power actually talking to these people, actually trying to figure anything out, well, they're effectively silenced. And so it's up to guys like me, right? And so that's what this channel is all about. That's what this video, I think, is all about. That what I want to do moving forward was occasionally put a video up like this, a union video, to inform you of what's actually happening. What are these unions actually doing? What do they fight for? Why are they fighting, right? Because if the mainstream media is not going to do it, then we have to. And so, hello, here I am, the Canadian commie, actually saying, hey, let's figure out what the unions are doing. Let's actually talk about the unions, and let's inform ourselves and not be gullible, right? To bring this to a personal level, this deplatforming that's been happening recently, right? I'm very scared of that. My name is the Canadian commie, right? I'm putting myself out there with the full force that I am a communist, and that I am interested in spreading communist ideas and at least talking about communist ideas, right? And in fact, that's why you should subscribe to this channel, because you're not going to get these ideas anywhere else. You're not going to get, like, I know you don't have a communist in your feed. I could be the communist in your feed, right? Hi, hello, how you doing? But I feel like this also makes me a pretty big target, right? Like, there's a long history of silencing communists in this country. There's a long history of silencing people on the left in this country. There's a long history of going after labor, going after organized labor, going after people who just call themselves, like, if I was attempting to operate during the 50s and 60s, I would be blacklisted, right? I would be part of the McCarthy hearings. I would be blacklisted completely for standing up and saying unrepentantly that I am a communist. And there are people around today, right? People who have very recently had long, prestigious moments in the sun, who would outright try to tell people that communists are evil because there was a famine that one time, right? Like, it's, so I find myself very skittish. So in this position, so what I want to do and what I think I have to do is sort of get my eggs out of the YouTube basket and start to spread it around onto other channels and other things. So you're going to start seeing on this channel me talking about, oh hey, I'm also on Vimeo, I'm also on Dailymotion, right? MetaCafe, right? These sorts of other sites, because YouTube has shown and proven without the shadow of a doubt that it is willing to silence dissenters. It is willing to silence people who are willing to create counter narratives, right? And the culture at large, the neoliberal structure, has shown that it is completely willing to silence union voices, to silence people who are putting up counter narratives. And what do I mean by counter narratives specifically? I mean any narrative that says, hey, maybe we should help regular citizens instead of continuously pouring money into the hands of a couple of wealthy people so that they can trickle down the wealth, when in reality it's just going into their offshore accounts and achieving nothing for anyone. Because if we don't have the conversations, like if we don't actually talk about unions, see what the unions are doing, ask why the unions are there, like even if you're an anti-unionist, even if you're sitting there being like, no, unions are dumb, we should get rid of them, you at the very least need to be talking to these people, right? You can't simply silence them and hope that that's going to work out. Because what do you end up with, right? We have a society that has swung drastically to the right here in Canada. We've got a far right party that's literally purging like fascists from their party. That's the Conservatives. And then we have a right-wing party that call themselves liberals but are really conservatives. And then we have a liberal party that calls itself leftist, but they're actually liberals, and that's the NDP. And then you have a conservative party that actually cares about environmental issues, and that's the Green Party. So where's the leftist party? Where's the leftist groups, right? They've been silenced. They've been completely obliterated from the conversation. They've been completely removed. YouTube demonetizes them. The unions don't get articles in any paper. The labor movement or the labor reporters are completely removed from the conversation. There's no consideration for any of them whatsoever. And so it's up to us now. It's up to us to actually do that, to actually put forward these narratives, to actually talk about these narratives, to actually put forward counter narratives to the corporate establishment who, guess what, you guys, is outright lying to you. And I think there's going to be a moment, it's going to happen soon, to touch back on the Wall Street Bets story, because that's the story in my view right now. There's going to be a moment when all of this, the fact that corporations are lying to you, is going to be really obvious. All these corporations have been saying over and over and over again, oh, the GameStop thing is done. Look, it's over, it's finished, right? Well, why would they be saying that? Why would they feel the need to even try to convince anybody that the story's over? If the story's over, they'd just move on, right? But no, they gotta pay money to try and convince people that it's over. So the fight continues, without a doubt. All right, I'm running out of time, and this is the end of me here. So keep an eye out on this channel. This is a growing channel. Please subscribe if you've reached to this point. I'm continuously focusing on creating counter narratives in our society. I think there's a lot of opportunity to create counter narratives now. We live in a very far right society where in the United States you have like as far right as you can get in the Republican Party, and then the Democratic Party is essentially just a right-wing party operating on behalf of the oligarch class, and there is no leftist movement in the United States. We are in this position, but what that means is that there's a vacuum there that we can fill and that we can do work on and that we can grow. And the success of this channel so far this year has been a testament to that this channel is growing, and it's growing fast. So please subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. It's just right there. Hit that like button. Hit the share button. Spread this around, right? We need to be talking about leftist issues, right? Because the corporate media is not going to, right? They never will. As far as they're concerned, that's outside the regular conversation point. It's not worth talking about. And hey, if you got $1 in your pocket right now, right? My Patreon is down below. Give me $1, right? Help fund the revolution. All right, guys. I love you all. You're doing the right things. You're doing what's right for you. Do not let these guys gaslight you, because they will gaslight you. Good luck. We're gonna need it.